Hey everyone, we got some massive news for Nvidia stock investors, reportedly rumors surrounding a delayed product release. Now it's hard to say if these rumors alone are what's sending Nvidia stock price lower because the broader stock market has faced significant headwinds over the last 3 to 5 days. However, this is certainly playing a role in Nvidia's stock price decrease. So in this video, I'll go into a little bit more detail into what this rumor could be, the likelihood of it being actually happening right now as opposed to just being a rumor, and then how it connects to Nvidia stock and Nvidia stock investors, what it could mean if this is actually true. So let's take a look.
I want to thank the Motley Fool for sponsoring this video. Visit fool.com/Parkev for the 10 best stocks to buy now.
Alright, so Nvidia is reportedly delaying the release of its next generation Blackwell GPUs by 3 or more months due to technical issues with the underlying architecture. This was first reported on Friday by a tech publication, The Information, which cited two unnamed sources, but then it was corroborated 2 days later by a separate report from semiconductor analysis firm SemiAnalysis, which said the first Blackwell GPU design will now arrive in the fourth quarter instead of the third quarter. Now, Nvidia hasn't said anything about this just yet as of this recording. However, Nvidia has been talking about the release of the Blackwell GPU in the back half of 2024. They hinted that these were already going out and would be installed by the end of this year. So if it is true that it is being delayed, what impact would that have on Nvidia stock investors? In the near term, it's not a very big deal whether a product arrives 3 months a little bit later than expected. But if you zoom out, the bigger picture here is the relationships with customers. If you promised your customers a certain product at a certain time, they're now planning around delivery of that product around a certain time. So if you're going to delay your delivery, they have to now go through all of these other complications and added costs because your delivery is delayed by several months. And so Nvidia's customers are not going to be happy about that. And they could ask for some kickbacks or some refunds or some incentives to help alleviate some of the rising complications because of the delayed delivery. Additionally, I've been talking about Nvidia and competition and how customers are not happy that Nvidia has such a dominant hold on this market. They want to give other players a chance because they don't want to be so reliant on Nvidia for this precise reason. If Nvidia faces difficulties on execution, on delivery, now these companies, they just have to wait because they don't have a rival that is up to par, right? Nobody's even close to Nvidia's Blackwell GPU technology right now. And so that's the conflict that these large hyperscalers like Microsoft and Amazon and Alphabet and others that are purchasing these GPUs, they're the largest buyers of these GPUs by far, and they don't have a comparable option. And that's why you've heard me talk about each of these companies, Microsoft, Amazon, Alphabet, Meta, and others are interested in creating their own chips so that they don't have to rely on Nvidia so heavily. Sure, Nvidia will still have the best-in-class chip, the best-in-class product, the best-in-class service, but they want to have another option just in case of situations like this where maybe they're saying it's going to be delayed 3 months and then 3 months turns into 6 months. What if this becomes a bigger problem where the product needs to be delayed much longer or the product doesn't come out as was promised? And so these companies want to have other options. And so if you're having these kinds of executional difficulties, it makes them want to diversify away from you even more. They already wanted to. This was already a risk for these large companies like the ones I mentioned. But now when you're having these execution difficulties, remember, these are just rumors for now. If you're having these problems on execution, that's going to make them want to diversify even more. So I wouldn't be surprised if Alphabet, Amazon, Microsoft, Meta platforms are now having conversations with AMD or with Intel that's launching the new Gaudi 3 accelerator. And of course, they're not going to be able to switch right away and just say, okay, let's cancel these NVIDIA Blackwell GPU orders and let's just get AMD instead, or let's get the Intel Gaudi instead. You can't do that quickly. There's a lot more that goes into it. But when they're thinking about their allocation for their AI data centers for 2026 and 2027, now they might say, well, let's consider these other options more seriously. Let's consider these other providers more seriously. If for nothing else, just for diversification purposes, so that we reduce the risk to exposure to these kinds of situations. Now, what's the probability of this actually being true? I would say there's a reasonable likelihood, given that it was corroborated by a second source, and it's not just the information that's reporting this. It was corroborated by the semiconductor analysis firm SemiAnalysis. That provides greater credence to this potential. Hopefully, it's just a couple of months and it doesn't become a bigger issue. Still, it will be hurtful to Nvidia's relationships with its customers. In terms of actual revenue impact, it will probably just delay revenue recognition by 3 months. So instead of recognizing the revenue in the third quarter for these Blackwell GPUs, they'll recognize it in the fourth quarter. And instead of having a certain ramp schedule, that ramp schedule might be pushed back as well. So this could be just delaying Nvidia's timeline by a couple of months if what is rumored or what is reported is true. Already, I'm starting to see that reflected in the forecast for Nvidia's earnings per share. You can see estimates for Nvidia's earnings per share in the current year in 2025 have been lowered in the last 7 days. 7 days ago, analysts on Wall Street that were following Nvidia stock, they thought it was going to deliver earnings per share of $2.72 in the current year. That's been lowered to $2.49. So a 23-cent decrease, less than 10% decrease in the last 7 days on Nvidia's earnings per share expectations for its current fiscal year. For the next fiscal year, they have also been lowered by 32 cents from $3.74 to $3.42. So analysts on Wall Street that are following Nvidia stock, they have already downgraded the earnings per share expectations for this year and next. That could be a hint that they've researched these rumors and they feel that they are true and that it is going to be delayed slightly by a couple of months. And so their earnings per share forecast is going to be pushed out. The growth is going to be pushed out. And so you're reducing the EPS for the current quarter, for the current year, by this much, and then for next year by a similar amount, 32 cents. So both less than 10% decreases in expectations in EPS. Already, Nvidia's stock is facing significant headwinds. It's down roughly 26% off its highs reached in June. So it's faced some headwinds. It bounced back a little bit in July, but it's been on a downward trend. Of course, the stock is up significantly in 2024. It's already seen significant gains. Nvidia's performance in 2024 is already meaningful, up 103% year to date, even after that drawdown I mentioned a little bit ago. Now, if you're asking if this is a buying opportunity for Nvidia stock investors, Nvidia is now trading at a forward price to earnings of 27.12. It's down from around the forward price to earnings of 34 it was trading at the highs of 2024. I still like Nvidia risk versus reward at current valuations. Although this news is not great, it's certainly bad news if true. Still, even if true, the lower valuation still makes Nvidia stock a buy, given the risk versus reward. If you liked the video you just saw and you want to see more just like it, please subscribe to the channel. I can't keep this channel free without the support of viewers like you. And if you're already subscribed, thank you, and I appreciate your support.